Alone in the snow, the alien child was prey until a human defied nature. Snow fell like soft ash from the sky. Cold winds howled across the white planet, sweeping through frozen trees and lifeless rocks. The ground was covered in thick ice and the air was sharp like tiny knives. No creature should have been outside in such weather, but there in the middle of the storm was a tiny alien child. She had silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Her head was too big for her tiny body, and she wore nothing but a torn wrap around her shoulders. She walked with slow, tired steps. Her legs shook. Her feet were bare. She was alone. No one knew her name, not even she remembered it. The crash had happened 2 days ago. Her family's ship was destroyed. Fire in the sky, screams, then silence. She had crawled from the wreckage and wandered into the snow. Now her small body could not go much farther. She saw a dead tree ahead, its branches frozen stiff like long-reaching claws. She slowly walked to it, fell beside the trunk, and curled up in the snow. Her tiny hands hugged her knees. Her body shook. Her breath came in weak clouds. "I want Mama," she whispered, but no one answered. Far away, glowing eyes opened in the snow. Lions not like Earth's lions. These were alien beasts, twice the size of normal ones. Their fur was white as ice, their teeth long and jagged. They moved like ghosts through the snow, silent and hungry. They had smelled something. Meat. Tiny meat. The leader sniffed the air and growled softly to its pride. They began to move together, quiet, deadly. Faster now. They were hunting. Back at the tree, the little alien girl blinked slowly. She could barely feel her fingers now. Her body was going numb. She closed her eyes, but just before sleep took her, she heard something strange. Crunch. Footsteps. Crunch. Crunch. Not like the lions, not soft and quiet. These were loud, heavy, slow. She forced her eyes open. A shadow was coming through the storm. Big, tall. It didn't look like a lion. It looked like a man. Jake Maroro was a human mechanic. He had crashed here too, 3 weeks ago. No one had come to rescue him, so he built a shelter, hunted alien birds for food, and tried to survive. He didn't expect to see anyone else, but his scanner had picked up strange signals, heat signatures. 1 small, weak one, and 5 large. Ones moving fast toward it. Predators. He had followed the trail, boots crunching through deep snow, rifle slung over his back, breath puffing from his mouth. When he saw her curled beside the tree, his heart dropped. "God," he whispered. She looked no older than a toddler, so small, so still, and behind her, 5 lion-like shapes were closing in fast. Jake ran forward. "Hey," he shouted at the snow lions. "Back off." He raised his plasma rifle and fired once into the sky. Boom! The blast lit up the storm. The lions stopped, growled low, and stared at him. Another shot. Boom! The noise echoed across the land. The lions paused, then slowly, carefully, they backed away. They weren't afraid, but they weren't stupid either. They would wait, watch, hunt again later. Jake stood still, gun raised, until the shadows were gone. Only then did he lower it and walk to the child. She didn't move. He knelt beside her, gently touching her small shoulder. Her skin was cold to cold. "Hey, little one," he said softly. "You're safe now. I'm not going to hurt you." Her eyes fluttered open, barely. She stared at him. Her lips moved but no sound came out. Jake pulled his coat off and wrapped it around her. Then he picked her up gently, cradling her in his arms. "We need to get you warm," he said, fast. He turned and began walking back into the storm, holding her close, rifle in one hand, heart pounding. Behind him, far in the snow, the lions still watched, and they were not finished. The storm howled louder now. Snow flew sideways, stinging the human's face as he moved through the white wasteland. Jake's arms tightened around the alien child. Her body was light to light. She wasn't shivering anymore. That worried him. When someone stopped shivering, it meant their body was giving up. "Stay with me, little one," he whispered. "Don't fall asleep. You'll be okay. I promise." The wind didn't care. The cold didn't care. But Jake did. He moved faster, boots crunching over frozen ground. The cave wasn't far. He had used it before, hidden supplies inside dry wood, tools, fire pellets. If he could just reach it in time. Minutes later, Jake ducked under the sharp rocks and entered the cave. It was dark but safe. He laid the child gently on a folded blanket and pulled out a small heating orb from his bag. With a twist, it began to glow orange and warm. He placed it near her. She didn't move. Jake's jaw tightened. Come on. He pulled another orb, placed it in her hands, then wrapped her in his thick coat and rubbed her arms. Still no sound. Then her eyes blinked just a little. Then again. Jake exhaled. Finally, you made it, he said with a smile. Tough little thing. She looked at him, confused, scared. Her voice was dry and soft. Why? Help? Jake paused. Because no one helped me once. I won't let that happen to you. She blinked again. Then for the first time, her small fingers moved, grabbing the edge of his coat, holding tight. Suddenly Jake froze. Snap. Something cracked outside the cave. Crunch. Footsteps. Again, but this time not his. He grabbed his rifle and moved slowly to the cave entrance. The snow outside glowed under the moons, and something large moved between the trees. He raised the rifle, his finger on the trigger. A shape stepped forward, lion, white fur, blood-red eyes. It had followed them. It had brought others. Jake counted 3 more shapes, silent, circling, waiting. One growled. The girl heard it too. She sat up slowly, trembling. They came for me. Jake looked back at her. Not tonight, they didn't. He stepped outside. Fire and snow danced together. Jake fired into the air. Boom, lighting up the trees. The lions growled, but didn't move back. This time, they were bolder, now hungrier. The biggest one stepped forward. Jake lowered the rifle to its chest and fired. Boom, a direct hit. The lion flew back into the snow, yelping. The others hesitated, but then 2 more rushed in. Jake fired again once, twice. The first missed. The second clipped a shoulder. Too many, too close. Suddenly a high-pitched hum filled the air. Jake blinked. The child had stood up. She was glowing. A strange blue light came from her hands, soft, but growing stronger. The lions stopped. One of them whimpered. The light grew brighter, buzzing, alive. Jake stared. What the hell? Then the girl whispered a word in her alien language, just one word, and the snow exploded upward in a pulse of energy. The lions were thrown back like leaves in a storm. Silence. Only wind now. Jake stared at the child. She stood still, glowing faintly, then she collapsed. He rushed to catch her. Hey, stay awake. She breathed softly. Jake looked out at the storm, then back at her. This child was no ordinary alien. She had power, and danger followed her. He held her close again. Who are you? Morning came slowly. The storm had passed, but the cold remained. The sky was pale gray, and everything outside the cave was covered in thick, shining ice. Even the trees looked frozen in time. Jake stood at the entrance, his breath fogging the air. His rifle was in his hands. He hadn't slept. Behind him, the little alien girl slept under his coat, her breathing soft. She hadn't woken since she used that strange light. Whatever power she had, it drained her. Jake didn't understand what she was, but he knew one thing now: something dangerous wanted her. And that something wasn't just hungry lions. He checked his scanner again. Red dots flashed in a slow circle around the cave. They're not gone, he muttered. Just waiting. Jake couldn't stay here. They needed to move. He packed fast, grabbed food rations, fire orbs, and ammo. He lifted the girl in his arms. She was still warm. At least that meant she was fighting to live. But as he stepped into the snow again, he saw the tracks. Not just lion tracks. Big, wide boot tracks. Jake narrowed his eyes. Humanoid. The prints led northeast. Fresh, maybe hours old. Someone else was on this frozen planet. Jake had thought he was alone, but now he knew others were here. And they were walking towards something, or hunting something. He looked down at the girl. Her head rested against his chest, her skin still glowing faintly. He followed the tracks. They walked through ice valleys, past giant crystal trees and silent frozen rivers. The girl woke up once, whispering weak words in her language. Jake didn't understand her words, but he saw the fear in her eyes when she looked behind them. They're following us, he said quietly. I know. Hours passed. The sun never fully rose, just hung low like a tired eye in the sky. Then Jake saw it up ahead, a small hill of jagged rocks. At the top, a blinking red light, a signal post. He climbed quickly, boots slipping on ice. At the top, he found a broken tower, old and rusty, but it had solar panels and a power cell still working. It had been used recently. There were more boot prints here, and blood. Jake knelt beside it. Alien blood, purple, still wet. Someone had been hurt recently, and they had run from something. Jake turned to look back the way he came and froze. At the base of the hill, footprints, but not just lion prints. Something else. Long toes, deep claws, too big for lions, and too smart. Jake's blood turned cold. The girl opened her eyes again slowly. Her lips trembled. They found us. Jake looked around quickly. He saw a small opening in the side of the hill, a cave, half hidden behind fallen rocks. He ducked inside, holding her close. Inside was dark, but not empty. There were old bones, scratches on the walls. This had been used as a den, or a trap. Jake set the girl down carefully and lit a fire orb. The glow filled the space. He looked into her eyes. You knew they were coming, didn't you? She didn't answer, but a single tear rolled down her cheek. Jake sighed. Whatever you are, whatever they want, I won't let them take you. Suddenly a distant roar echoed across the valley. Not a lion's roar, something deeper. The girl flinched. Jake stood, rifle raised, back against the wall. The hunt had begun again, but this time, the hunters weren't just beasts. They were something worse. The growl echoed through the mountains again, louder this time. It wasn't a simple animal sound. It was something ancient, something intelligent. Jake crouched near the mouth of the cave, rifle steady, heart racing. The little alien girl was sitting behind him, wrapped in the thick coat, eyes wide and glowing faintly in the dim orange light of the fire orb. She whispered, "They are not lions anymore." Jake looked back. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. "They changed." Outside, heavy footsteps crunched through the ice. Jake peeked through a narrow gap between rocks, and what he saw made him curse under his breath. It was one of the white lions, but taller now, standing onto legs. Its body was stretched, bones to long, fur falling off in patches, eyes red and glowing unnaturally. Its jaw opened wider than it should, too wide. It sniffed the air like a machine, like it knew, and it wasn't alone. Two more of them climbed over the ridge behind it. They were no longer animals. They were something modified. Jake whispered, "Genetic hacking. This isn't just evolution. Someone did this." The girl nodded slowly. "Hunters made them long ago for war." Jake stared at her. "You know them?" Her voice was low. "They were used to wipe out my people." Suddenly a low howl filled the air. "Close now." The beasts had found their scent. Jake raised his rifle. "If they get in here, we're dead." The girl looked down at her hands. They glowed a soft blue again, but weakly. She shook her head. "I can't do it again." Jake turned. "Do what?" She looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. "I am too small. I'm not ready." Jake stepped forward and knelt in front of her. "Listen. You don't have to stop them. You just have to hold on. I'll protect you." But deep inside, Jake knew his rifle wouldn't be enough. Crack. A sharp claw pierced the rock outside. The wall beside them cracked. A huge white paw smashed through the stone. Jake fired. Boom. The beast howled in pain but didn't retreat. Another paw came in, then a head. Too fast. Jake tried to pull the girl back, but she stood up on her own. She was shaking, her legs weak, but her eyes burned brighter now. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," she whispered. The growling stopped. Then she roared. But it wasn't a normal sound. It was like a wave of wind, sound, and heat. Her scream echoed through the cave like thunder. Blue light shot from her hands, wrapping the cave in a wall of energy. The beast froze. Its claws trembled. Its body began to crack like glass under pressure. Then it shattered into dust. Jake covered his face as the wind blew the ash away. When he looked up, the girl was floating, her small body surrounded by swirling light. The fire orb had dimmed completely. Only her power lit the cave. Then, like a breath released, she dropped. Jake caught her. She didn't move. Outside, the other beasts had stopped. They sniffed the air, then turned and ran. Jake looked out in disbelief. "You scared them off." He looked down at the child. She was breathing but unconscious. Her body couldn't handle this much power. He gently picked her up again, holding her close. "She's not just a child," he whispered to himself. "She's a weapon." But he didn't care. To him, she was just a little girl who needed someone, and he would not leave her behind. The cave was quiet now. The fire orb had gone cold, and the light from the little alien girl's powers had faded. Only the soft hum of the wind outside could be heard. Jake sat with her, in his lap, gently brushing frost from her silver hair. She was still breathing, but barely. Her skin had gone pale blue, and her fingers were curled tight. Jake stared at her face. She looked peaceful, like she was dreaming, but he knew this was not sleep. She had used something deep inside her, something even she didn't understand. Jake stood and looked around the cave. They couldn't stay here, not anymore. The cave stank of blood, ash, and burned stone. The snow lions, or whatever they had become, would return. Maybe with more numbers. Maybe with worse mutations. He tightened the coat around the girl's body and whispered, "We move now." He stepped outside the cave and froze. Tracks. Dozens of them. Not just lions this time. Boots. Big ones. Human size. Alien size. Heavy treads and wide spacing. Military boots. And they were fresh. Jake scanned the horizon. Far across the ice, he saw movement. A ship black and silver, long like a spear stabbed into the ground. Soldiers in dark armor moved around it. His stomach dropped. These aren't rescue teams. He stepped back into the cave, but something caught his eye, scratched into the inside wall of the stone. A symbol. It wasn't old. It was recent. 3 sharp lines across a circle. Jake had seen it before in classified files. Project Ember, a secret experiment to create alien human weapons. It was shut down years ago, or so they said. Jake looked down at the girl. "Is that what you are? An Ember child?" But she didn't answer. Of course she didn't. He tightened his grip around her. "I don't care what you are." He stepped back into the snow. "I'm not giving you to them." The wind picked up as Jake moved fast across the ice plains. He took hidden paths, slid through frozen valleys, and ducked under fallen trees. The cold bit at his skin, but he didn't stop. Behind him, footsteps echoed, mechanical, sharp. They weren't hiding now. Whoever they were, they wanted him to know they were coming. Jake reached an old mining shelter, half buried in snow. Rusted doors, broken rails, but solid walls. He forced the door open with a metal bar and slipped inside. He laid the girl down on a pile of old blankets. Then he checked his ammo. 2 plasma rounds left, 1 backup knife. Not enough, he sighed and whispered, "We'll have to get creative." He looked down at her, still asleep, still glowing faintly. "I need you to wake up," he said. "I can fight, but you change the fight." Suddenly he heard it, a voice outside. "Return the Ember." It wasn't shouted. It was calm, cold, a man's voice, but hollow. Jake stepped out of the shelter, rifle ready. A figure stood alone on the iced hall, in dark armor. His eyes glowed red under his helmet. "Return the child," the figure said again, "and you will be allowed to live." Jake lifted his rifle. "You want her? You'll have to kill me first." The figure didn't blink. "If you protect her, then you are now an enemy." Jake smirked, then called worse. He fired once. Boom. Then slammed the door shut. Inside, he grabbed the girl and whispered, "We're not running anymore." Then he set charges around the door. If they wanted her, they would have to come through. Fire and ice. Outside the broken shelter, the wind screamed across the ice. Snow twisted in the air like sharp ghosts. The tall figure in black armor didn't move. His red eyes stared at the frozen door ahead. Inside, Jake stood still, watching. The little girl. Her breath was shallow. Her hands twitched. He had seen soldiers break. He had seen machines melt. But this child, she had fought creatures twice her size with nothing but her scream. And now she was fading. Jake knelt beside her. "They're coming. I don't think I can stop them alone." He wasn't expecting an answer, but this time her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him. "You stayed." He smiled. "Of course." Her lips trembled. "Most leave." Jake shook his head. "Not me." The shelter shook suddenly. A heavy boot slammed the outer door. The red-eyed soldier had arrived. Behind him, footsteps followed, dozens of them. Jake looked at the girl. "If you have anything left in you, now's the time." She sat up slowly. Her eyes glowed brighter. "I remember," she whispered. Jake blinked. "Remember what?" She closed her eyes, and the snow outside stopped falling. The storm froze in place. Every snowflake hung in the air, unmoving. The soldiers outside stopped too, unsure. One raised a scanner, then it exploded in his hand. The red-eyed leader turned. "It's activating." Inside the shelter, the girl stood on her bare feet. Her body shook, but she didn't fall. Jake stepped back, stunned. The air around her buzzed like lightning before a strike. Then her voice filled the air, louder than before. "I am the last child of Rail's blood, born of storm, keeper of roar." And the shelter exploded in light. Outside, the storm bent around her. Snow lifted from the ground in great circles, spinning fast. Lightning cracked down from the sky without clouds. The ground itself shook. The soldiers opened fire, but the bullets melted midair. One soldier screamed as ice grew across his armor, freezing him solid in seconds. Jake shielded his eyes. The red-eyed leader stepped forward, raising a hand. She's fully activated. Take her down. 10 more soldiers rushed in, but the girl raised her arms and the sky roared back. The lightning hit the earth like hammers. The ground broke apart. The soldiers were thrown into the air like feathers. Only the leader remained standing. He stepped forward again. You don't control this power, he said. The girl didn't blink. Jake stepped between them. She doesn't have to. I do. The leader raised a hand, ready to blast Jake apart, but then the girl stepped beside him. Together they raised their hands. The wind and fire joined. His rifle fired. Her light pulsed, and the leader was slammed backward by a shockwave that cracked the sky open. He vanished into the snow. Silence again. The storm stopped. Only the girl's soft breathing remained. She fell forward. Jake caught her. He whispered, "You're more than just a weapon." She opened one eye and smiled faintly. I'm not alone now. The wind had gone quiet. No roars, no footsteps, no screams, just snow falling gently from the sky again, like feathers from above. The world was soft and still, as if the planet itself had stopped to breathe. Jake stood in the open field of cracked ice, holding the alien child in his arms. Her silver hair was tangled, her skin faintly glowing, but she was alive. She had saved them both. He looked around. The dark armored soldiers were gone, scattered like broken pieces of a bad dream. The red-eyed leader had vanished into the storm. No sign of body or blood. Jake knew one thing: this wasn't the end of the danger, but it was the end of the hunt. For now, he walked across the snow with careful steps, each crunch echoing into the quiet. The child rested her head against his chest. She didn't speak, but her hand was wrapped tightly around one of his fingers, like she was afraid to let go. He whispered, "It's all right. You're safe now." She answered softly, "Where are we going?" Jake smiled. Home. They reached a broken shuttle Jake had repaired weeks ago. It wasn't perfect, but it could fly enough to get them out of here. He placed her gently in the passenger seat, wrapping a warm cloth around her. She looked out the cracked window, eyes wide. Will there be others like you? Jake paused. I don't know. She nodded. That's okay. One is enough. The ship rumbled to life. Old engines coughed and groaned, then lifted off the ground. Ice flew around them in a white swirl as the ship rose higher. The planet below faded into clouds. Jake looked at her. You never told me your name. She blinked slowly, then whispered, I don't have one. Jake thought for a moment. Then let's make one. He smiled. How about Luma? She smiled weakly. Luma? She nodded. I like that. Hours passed in silence. She slept again, curled beside him. Jake watched the stars outside the window. Somewhere out there, others would be searching for her. The war wasn't over, but she had him now. She had a protector, a promise. He whispered to the stars, to no one, to everyone, you'll never be alone again.